General Manager Kevyn Adams joins us. Kevin, we know you're obviously very busy. Thanks for the time. Appreciate you coming on. How's everything going?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year to you and Rivs, and it's good to be on with you guys. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and I think the last time we saw you, we said we're waiting for you to do something. We're waiting on you, and it was right around the golf tournament. Next day, you listen to the Instigators, you acquire Eric Stahl, and then here we are. Training camp is kicking off tomorrow. I mean, talk to us about what that time has been from the summer to now, and where the excitement and buildup has gone.
Well, I was actually just on the phone with David Poyle, and he was asking me how I'm doing, and I said, I don't know any different. This is my first time through it, through all this. So even though it's been such a unique off season and just so many different things going on and moving parts and discussions and protocols, I'm just getting up every day and learning and going to the next thing. So enjoying it. And the off season was interesting because what I felt was an intensity for a few months straight, where it was we needed to do a lot of work, and just it was go. And then all of a sudden it got really quiet after the free agency period, and the phones kind of just went quiet, and everybody, I think, caught their breath and was then waiting on the NHL announcement. So we were making plans and decisions, but we didn't really have any information, didn't know when we were going to get going and how it would look. So when that news came out, then it's been fast and furious since. So it's exciting to be thinking about what the team will look like on the ice, instead of just talking about hoping to get players on the ice. They're here in Buffalo now, and we're ready to get going.
Kev, if you, leading up, you're going to be on the ice starting training camp, and the next day, players typically, back when we first came in the league a long time ago, the veteran players came to training camp basically to get into shape to prepare for a season. Obviously, things have changed tremendously. Have you had dialogue with each and every player to let them know what you expect them to look like when they're jumping into this training camp?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you actually, when you said that, you made me think my first training camp as a player with the Leafs. I remember Jamie McCowan, veteran defenseman, and he felt like at the time, he was 100 years old, and he grabbed a box with his skates and just threw him on the first day of training camp. And it's like, it's good to hit the ice, boys. That was a little bit of a different era, right?
Did he have the stash too, Jamie McCowan?
Legend, that guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Great guy too. And, so to your point, things have certainly changed a little. And yeah, there was clear expectations to all the players about focusing on what you could control in wherever they were training, and the gains they needed to make. And, part of my message to players too was that we don't know what training camp will look like, but what I can promise you is it's not going to be normal. So the more game ready they were able to get themselves in, I think, in my opinion, the better advantage our team has. So you guys know it's really, really tough in skates and skill sessions to have that compete and have that battle kind of mentality. But these guys are professionals, and they all have strength coaches and skating coaches and gurus that they work with. So I have no doubt that they'll be ready to go.
General Manager Kevyn Adams joining the Instigators here. I asked something earlier in the show, and I wanted to ask you: is there a sports science that goes into how you rev up training camp? Are you working with specialists in that regard that are, educated and working with highly trained athletes and how to get them ready for a sprint of a season like the whole league's about to have?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a sports performance department, and with a number of staff members that all have different specialties, and they are incredibly talented and very good at what they do. And, the mindset is about being at your absolute best when the puck drops, that game, night, or day. So what do you do before, after, whether it's to prepare or recover? and the data and the science behind it is, impressive now compared to, not that long ago. So these players are all, they're in tune with that. Our sports science department kind of helps them with that. But, sometimes it's rest too, right? Like, we always talk about, you got to go, but there are times where then you have to be able to read the data and say, you know what, this player's pushed really, really hard. We need to make sure that we're pulling them back, and Ralph maybe needs to manage that in practice the next day or whatever that is. So technology's come a long way in that regard for sure. And I think our players, they've grown up with it too. That's the difference as well. And they understand that.
I do remember when I was with the Sabres, and this was 10 years ago, that we had heart rate monitors on. You could see your heart rate actually on the Videotron during practice. And, that was the first time that technology we used in my time in the NHL was here in Buffalo. Is there that technology? I'm sure it's way even beyond that, like what these players are doing. Now, do you treat individual players? Everybody's got to be treated a little bit differently in how their body reacts to, the first 2 weeks of training camp. Are certain players going to get different days off? Like, how does it all work?
Yeah. It's funny. I remember that, Rivs, with the Jumbotron and the heart rate. You probably lost your mind when you saw your heart rate at about 220. Then you had to do your first.
It was in the red all the time, Kevin. I didn't see anybody else in red, but I was in
warm up, Kevin. In warm up, it got to the red. We do the basic 3-man regroup, and Craig would be huffing and puffing down at the.
Taking a knee down in the corner no, it's a great point, and I think what hockey's learning from other sports is really important. I think especially like the English Premier League and soccer has been really well known for tracking, the workload of their athletes. And what I never felt made any sense to me, I don't know how you guys felt, but when I played, your strength coach gave you a manual at the end of the season, and it was like a one size fits all, and said, go have a great summer and do this. But I was thinking, well, how am I going to do the same workout that, a 6'4" defenseman, it never made sense to me. So now it is to a point where each player is given, a specific program to optimize their game. And, yes, it'll be individualized. If a player needs a break, they get a break. If a player needs to do more, maybe a player didn't play as many minutes in the game, in a night, then they need to have their workload a little bit higher. Because what we do know is you always have to be ready to be the best you can be and to be able to play the most minutes you can play. Because there is such a thing as getting out of shape during the season too, if if your minutes go down. So that's just something that the coaches and the staff will monitor.
Instigators, Craig is smirking. I'd love to know what that smirk's all about. WGR Sports Radio 550. Kevyn Adams joining us. I want to shift gears out of that particular conversation and talk about the players that are coming to training camp. How tough was it to put together this roster for training camp? Where and when did Riley Sheahan fit into your mix, and who does he put pressure on? A lot in there in that question, but I mean, you've been doing this a while.
Yeah, no, I think the start is we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves with training camp until we knew what the exact number of players we were going to be allowed to bring in. I didn't know if we were going to be looking at a 30 player, 40 player. So obviously when we got the information that 36 skaters and unlimited goalies, it changed a little bit around what we thought made the most sense. And from my perspective, we had then to look at what prospects did we have that in let's just call it a typical season would be here in part of our training camp, and what players that would be here were playing in a good situation potentially somewhere else. And we had, I think, 3 players that we felt were in really good professional leagues in Europe. We're in season, we're competing every day. You're bringing them back here, quarantining them, so you're trying to balance that, especially in a training camp that's short without exhibition games. So you're not going to get players that, that taste of what it feels like to play in an exhibition game. So we worked off of that, and we got to our list. And then we also wanted to make sure that there were going to be players out there that we had, kind of earmarked as veteran type players that hadn't signed contracts. Where did we think they could potentially fit if we were able to get them into training camp? And Riley Sheehan is an example of that. So Riley has been a pro for a long time, been in this league. He's a veteran guy that understands what it takes. Excellent face-off player, excellent penalty killer. I think he led Edmonton in short-handed ice time last year, and they were a top 10 penalty killing team in the league. So this is a guy that has proven to be successful in that area, which obviously is an area that our team needs to improve. So I think with a guy like that, you bring him in, you put a situation where, I don't know if pressure, PD, is the right word. You want to create that internal competition where every single player on your roster feels that they have to be their best every day, practice, game, to earn their ice time. I think the best organizations in all of professional sports is when everybody, the players, coaches, front office, everybody feels you have to earn it every day. And if we create that mindset where players come into the rink that, I played 12 minutes last night and I wanted to play 16 minutes. I got to go earn it. I played 16. I want to play 20. I got to earn it. I wasn't in the lineup. I want to get in the lineup. And you create that culture. It's powerful. So I think overall, just having a player like him will push our group. And then I love the thought of that internal competition for ice time, for power play time, for penalty kill time. And then, we'll go from there.
So Kev, just to clarify, 36 players coming to training camp, unlimited goaltenders. What is the number of players that you're going to keep once it's all said and done and you start your season on the 14th?
Well, we're not sure. And the reason is because we want to see as training camp goes on, exactly what our players, some of our younger players look like and what we think makes the most sense. So obviously, you guys have been following this. We do have a taxi squad that's unique this year. And really the taxi squad is an extension of your team. They are a taxi squad, but they're practicing with you. They're traveling with you. They can get activated to go into the lineup just like someone would be called up, but it's a little more seamless, I guess I'd say, because they're right here with us. So we want to.
And what number is that?
That's 6. So, count, you have to put a goalie
29 players.
Yeah. So that would give you up to 29. But we'll see. We want to see where our flexibility is, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to have players available to give us the best chance to win. And so we're gonna balance that. Who's on that taxi squad versus the development piece, and all of that plays into this.
Well, I guess the next
Kevyn
question.
Adams joining us here on WGR 550. Yeah, what's the next question, River?
Well, I was just going to say, I guess the next question follows in with, a guy like Dillon Cousins, a guy like Jack Quinn, with their inability to maybe play in the junior leagues or for that matter, where do you see these two young players moving forward?
Yeah, I think for overall philosophically, Rivs, what I would say is I'll go back to earning it. You want players to earn their spot. You want players to not be put in a situation that is they're being forced into something, or they're being given something because of where they were drafted or what people think they need. So I think that's the mentality that we'll take with all our players. In particular with those two, these are very talented young players. And you're right, this is such a unique situation. The Ontario Hockey League, the Western Hockey League, they're not playing right now, so they don't have a place to, after the World Juniors, to go back to in that setting. So we'd like to bring them both to camp when the World Juniors is over. And that was another discussion. I love the fact that those guys are there. Turk is there, Johnson's there. I mean, that is every day competing in practice, structure, high level. It's going to get more and more intense over the next, few days here as they get into the qualifying games or into the past the round robin games, I should say. So they'll have an advantage of being game ready, and then we'll bring them into Buffalo here for training camp. Whether they get any part of training camp or not, it kind of depends on the timing of it all and the quarantine rules. And then we'll go from there.
Instigators, Kevyn Adams joining us here. Let's talk about the schedule. I guess first I want to ask you, have you addressed the team? I mean, the GM always comes in and addresses the group. I'm sure you'll do that. Maybe you've done that. Will you? And what will your message be in terms of expectations when you look at the schedule, the difficulty of the division? What's going to be the expectation and what's acceptable in your eyes this year?
Yeah. So I've talked to the players and texted with players, haven't interacted actually in person, not allowed to yet until once we get into our, all of the training camp and the testing protocols that have to go on. And it's pretty extensive. So, but have spoken to players on the phone in different ways, over the last couple months. From my standpoint, we will address the team, as I guess as normal as you could in an abnormal situation. We'll have the players it'll be crystal clear, the expectations. I think a message from myself to the players, the staff, everybody is the discipline that it takes this season in particular to. You have to every single day be careful in what's going on. And you look at football and they lose, 4 wide receivers in Cleveland, and all of a sudden they could be out of a playoff spot. We want to just make sure that we're talking to our players about that and the discipline. And the other part from my standpoint will be you have a choice in this situation. You can say, man, this is tough and this is challenging, or you can look at it as an unbelievable opportunity that we get to get up and do this every day, and we get to compete and we get to play the game we love. And I think the more we understand that, how fortunate we are, and we get excited about that, and we bring that every day, that let's focus on what we control. Let's be the best version of ourselves, and that's going to help each other. That'll be the message, and embrace it. We have to embrace this. This is an amazing opportunity.
What's your expectation with the team? I mean, do you talk about playoffs? Do you talk about because Kevin, let's be honest. I mean, how cool would you think it would be if you rolled in? I think we lost Riv there for a minute, but if you rolled in the first year and you're able to in a unique scenario, make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think, I've never been one to be afraid to talk about, things in terms of what's your overall goals. And I'm a big believer that you have to set expectations early in terms of, let's call it long-term, medium, and short-term goals. Your long-term goal as a team, as a franchise is this, and you're going to lay it out and you're going to have that conversation with players, with coaches. Your kind of middle goals would be, okay, over the course of the month, what are we looking to accomplish, in that medium range? And then you're ultimately shrinking it down to, what are we going to do today? How are we going to be better? What are we going to do in practice today to make sure that we're better than we were yesterday? So I think it's great to have those conversations, and I think it's great to revisit them. So you need the long-term goal. You need to understand where we want to go, or you'll never get there, in my opinion. But then you have to also break it down into those steps to get there. And we have high expectations. We want to challenge each other. We want to make sure that we're a team that is competing at a high level every single time we take the ice. We owe that to each other. We owe that to our fans, and that'll be the expectation. And I know it's cliche, Petey, but I am a big believer that results do take care of themselves. If you do the right things, and you do the right things off the ice, you do the right things in practice, you do the right things throughout a game, the results take care of themselves. So I'm excited to actually get into those conversations now that we're getting close.
Well, who has more conversations with the players? Are you in contact with the players? Is the coach in contact with the players regularly? Is there regular communication? I mean, how is that working?
Well, I think you certainly you said it. I think the coaches are always going to be with the players every day, constantly talking. But the real key, the word is communication. I'm a big believer that we have to be communicating at all levels in all areas of the organization, so we're all on the same page. I really the days to me are over of where, a general manager sits up in the office and maybe comes around the team once every few months and says, I'm going to trade you guys if you don't start playing better. Like that to me doesn't make any sense. It's about relationships. It's about players understanding that I'm with them. I want to be part of this group. I want to learn from them just as much as, they may ask questions and want to learn from me. I think that to me sends the right message that we're all in this together. So it'll be by committee, but certainly the coaches are on a daily basis, always in front of the players. But I've told the players over the conversations that I've had over the last few months is I think you'll find my style a little bit different. I I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be around. I'm going to ask them questions. I want them to know after a tough game that, you know, it's not the time to yell and scream. It's time to make sure they understand that we're all in this together. And then we also can enjoy the great moments. And that's to me what it's all about.
I guess, I mean, Riv, I know you're just coming back. I don't know if you have a question or anything, but I guess players I think of more specifically are Tage Thompson and Casey Middlestad when I talk about communication with players. Because I mean, I mean, I don't know how often you talk to Jack and Sam and those guys, but I mean, those guys are those guys, you know, like, and there's always guys that don't need to be steered at all, and they don't need their hands held. But sometimes younger players do. Sometimes younger players need a little, I don't want to say push, but maybe a little more direction, right? And I wonder about, like, has anyone communicated with KC about how important this is for him and Tage Thompson and what's expected of guys like that, Curtis Lazar, guys like that, players that maybe the fans listening might not see as key pieces, but actually are?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start. I think that's a great point. I guess I would start with, you can't have tough conversations, in my opinion, with anyone unless you have trust. You can't just say, I don't care what role and title you have. You can't say, this is what you have to do, and this is why. If the player or if anyone doesn't trust and believe in who you are and what you're saying. So it starts, to me, with truly having a relationship with everyone across the organization. And that's players, that's coaches, that's your equipment staff, that's your medical staff, that's I mean, everybody involved. So then when it's time to have those conversations, and when it's time to look someone in the eye and say, hey, you know, I need you to be better, and here's what I see the problem. And by the way, I'm completely open to and want people to have that same conversation with me. You know, I've always tried to surround myself with people that don't tell me what they want to hear. They tell me what they see. They tell me where my blind spots are and help me become better. And that's the way it should be. So that, to me, goes back to the bigger point, though. We're all in this together. Then you're able to take the younger players. Certainly, Petey, like the players you mentioned, Casey and Tage, and these guys that are just kind of starting their career. Yeah, like, they're going to find their way, and there's a lot of people around that can help them. But I want to create a culture of being open and asking questions and say, I need help, and this is what I'm going through. And then we have people that can help them, whether it's me or someone else. So I think that's a really powerful thing that we could do.
Kevyn Adams joining the Instigators here on WGR 550. Obviously, we appreciate your time. I don't know how much longer we can go with you, or we're allowed to go with you. I have a ton more questions that I know I won't be able to get to. I'm sure Riv does as well. Quinn, Cousins, even other players. I mean, what happens if the American League doesn't get going, and where can these players go? And how much of that is your, I don't want to say responsibility, but maybe duty to help them find a place to play in the best interest of their development? Is that even an area that you need to focus on right now?
Yeah, it is, in terms of, you know, we want to make sure our players are all in the absolute best spots of to develop and get better, especially our prospects. But at the same point, you have teams across the league. Everybody's doing the same thing, and you know, you guys know it's not as easy just to say, oh, I'm gonna put a player in Sweden. You know, it's because there's just not that many spots. So we'll take a look at things. We'll see what happens here I think in very short order, we're going to get more clarity on the American Hockey League and what that's going to look like. There's calls today, there's calls over the next few days that are going to happen. So once we get more information there, we'll have a better understanding. And then we'll also understand what the rules are. You know, if the Ontario Hockey League is not going, does that give us the opportunity to put Jack Quinn? You know, if Rochester's happening, can we put him there? You know, all those things are questions that will get answered here in the coming days.
River,
Great.
Anything?
Well, I guess the last question I have is, you know, I read an article the other day that the Florida Panthers are going to have fans, short order of fans in their stands, and just thinking about Buffalo and obviously how important our fans are to the Buffalo Sabres, and playing in front of those fans. It's like having an extra player on the ice, as we players have talked about before. Do you feel that at some point this season that we're going to see some fans in the stands here in Buffalo?
I think that, it's hard to predict because nobody knows exactly what the world's going to be looking like, weeks from now or months from now. But I do know that we would welcome that, and our players would, everybody would. I hope so. I hope so, Rivs. I mean, it would be great to see this building alive and the energy. And I mean, there is I don't know. I guess you guys played here a long time. There's something so special about this community and this town and the sports teams that they embrace so much. I mean, I want so badly for our players to step out on the ice and feel that energy and to feel that push that I've felt as a player on the other side. Like it's just special. And what I'm really hoping magically could happen is we're playing well and holding up our end of the bargain, and then the switch could get flicked and fans can come in here, and then there's such a fired up, passionate group of fans because they miss being in this building. And I certainly hope that's the case down the road.
I feel bad for these players, Kevin, over the years, especially guys like Risto and Jack, guys that have been here the longest, guys that were here and left that never got to experience how good this city is when hockey is great. I mean, I'm separating the Bills and the Sabres for a second, but that 10-game winning streak a couple of years ago, I think gave a lot of people a little bit of a taste and reminder of how passionate the fans are. And I really do. I mean, literally rode the roller coaster here for 2 years with the team. In some of its best years, I'm not allowed to say the years, Kevin. Craig doesn't allow me to say the years on the show, but nobody understands. I mean, nobody understands what happened at the airport when the Bills came home. That happened to us. And after we lost to you guys in Game 7, like yep. That they were there, thousands of people lining the road, thanking. Well, I say me. I mean, I was part of the team, but I mean, thanking the guys for the run, for the effort, for the excitement, for the recognition that the town got and everything. I really do. I mean, when I say that, like I feel bad for the players that haven't been able to experience that yet.
Well, I'll tell you, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think there is something special in this town that, I grew up with, and that, I've lived a lot of places, that there's a true connectivity between our community and our sports teams in this community. And what I really would like to see is that connectivity both ways, where our fans really appreciate and love this team that's on the ice, and it goes both ways, and our players feel the same way. I spent some time a couple months ago now with Jack, and we were just sitting casually having a conversation. And I told him about the playoffs that year, and that I remember, I think it was Game 6 in overtime when Buffalo scored. And I was in the locker room after the game, and it sounded like there was, I can't even explain the noise of the building. And I'm down in the locker room, and and I was telling Jack about that. I said, "You just wait. It's something so special." And we have to hold our end of the bargain up, right? We have to earn that. We have to earn the respect of the fan base. We have to earn the respect of the league by the way we play every game, by the way we compete. And if we just take care of what we need to take care of, then that fan base will be there strong. I have no doubt.
Well, we got to let you go. We appreciate your time. For next time, though, I'd like you to try to remember a story, because you talk about communication with players. Was there ever a moment in your career that you look back and wish that a general manager or the other person might have handled it differently, and maybe how you might have handled it now? But we won't put you on that spot right now. But another time, give you a little homework assignment on top of a pile of other things you have to do.
Petey, that's
good.
Yeah. I got you.
Listen, I've watched The Crown, Kevin. So when you get your big red box, I bet you flip it over and you pull everything from the bottom, because the important stuff is buried, right? So you got to start somewhere, right? There it is.
Netflix guy, huh, Petey? It's good. You keep entertained.
I just bit it and went into the Formula One thing yesterday, and I've never seen anything more amazing in my entire life.
Highly recommend it to our viewers. I've watched both seasons, so but hey guys, it's awesome being on, and anytime I'm happy to do it. And when we're on the road, the protocols, I don't think we're really allowed to leave our hotel room, so maybe I'll just pop on with you guys once in a while and talk to some friends. It'd be nice.
We'll take that anytime, Kevin. Anytime. We appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Have a good day.
Yeah, Bye. Thank you.